John?
Yeah, well, it's not just also the work that Link for Life do. There's also a number of, not saying good, we want every activity to come forward, but there are some obvious assets as well in the township, such as the Fairgrove playing fields and the like that work with the Cobras and stuff like that. Will some of the stuff that other organisations be part of, or will it just be strictly this is what Link for Life doing in the township, or is it a bit this is kind of what's going on in the township? That makes sense.
From us, it would be the stuff that we know about that we're working on, or the things that we're partnering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. To your questions, I don't have a problem coming along, right? But I would like to consult, right, my councillors as well from Pennines. If everybody's okay, of course you can. You can come along and do a presentation or get asked questions.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will bow out and leave you to your meeting now, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Thanks, Darren.
Cheers.
Item 6, Pennines Township Funds 2021. Well,
that's me, Chair. So the report is the report regularly presented to this meeting and asks that members note the expenditure commitments and balances for Pennines Township revenue and capital in Appendices 1 and 2. Appendix 3 asks members to note decisions made under delegated authority, and Appendix 4 asks members to consider and approve, refuse or defer the allocation of funds to proposed projects. Revenue funds are available of £56,541, and there are 6 applications for consideration and 2 late items. There is enough money within the funds if you wanted to approve all that's put before you tonight. The first one is PF 12/20, which is Birch Road traffic calming reprofiling. The cost is £1,870, and I believe Chris Woods is on the meeting if members have got any questions.
Okay. John, is that you?
You're on mute, Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Chair. Would you like me to speak to that item briefly now?
Yes, please.
Okay, going back just over 12 months ago, councillors Durnley, Emsley and myself went to Rochdale Academy, spoke with a number of the pupils there about road safety, and we took on board all their considerations and thoughts. And as a result of that, I met with Nathan McKendry up on Birch Road, and we looked at a whole range of options to make the road safer. In a nutshell, the only one that came out as being feasible was to actually raise the speed humps that are there. They've been eroded over time. They're still there, they haven't disappeared. And then if you add into the mix, when we had the roads resurfaced last year, of course you don't go over the speed humps, and that made the speed humps even smaller. Given the speed of the traffic on Birch Road, the proximity to the school, the risk to young people going to and from the school, I propose that we spend some money on those speed humps, make them a bit higher than they are at the moment, in the interest of pupil and young person safety, and indeed everybody's safety who uses that road. I think it's a very worthwhile step and one that we should take. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Durnley.
Chairman, I'm happy to second that. And these measures were put in at the time when we provided this traffic calming outside all schools. So whilst it's fine, I guess, to use our budget, there was a specific budget for all those traffic calming measures outside schools at that time, and I wonder if that shouldn't still apply, because basically we're talking about maintaining them to the level that they were at. If there isn't a specific fund for that, then I accept it coming from the townships, but it'd be very good if some of it could come from the central pot for a change.
Right, okay. can I just ask all the members, sorry, not members, councillors, if they want to speak on a specific item, I can only see 3 people. Can they just either speak up, and give each other a bit of a chance to say, if one's finished, whoever needs to speak, please, because I cannot, I am so sorry, but that's it, the meeting has to be like this today. So,
Chair,
I see
Councillor,
John.
yeah, Councillor Blundell wants to come in.
Okay.
So like Councillor Derby, and we have done this in the past, and it's a small amount of money, but it does frustrate me when things like maintenance and stuff the council should be doing is taken from pots such as this. This is community funds for the public to use, not for council services to dip into to maintain whatever it is. So I think that we fund it, but we send it to Cabinet asking why the council isn't maintaining its highway, given I'm pretty sure it's a statutory duty that the council has to maintain the highway, and given these have been put down, it's for the council to do that. I don't know why they've come to the township for those funds.
And just on that, John, we did provide funding specifically out of that central pot to do this outside all schools at the time. So it was from the central pot.
It's to me, Chair, it just makes, I accept sometimes what members ask for in terms of we want a new bollard, we want a new speed bump. That will invariably come to the township. But maintenance is... that shouldn't be being pushed onto these budgets. That's a step further that we've never seen before, in my view.
Okay.
Chair, can I offer some advice?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Fully appreciate the comments. I think the key issue here is it's been inspected by an engineer, and whilst the profile is low, it's still within guidance in that sense. So in terms of providing that highway maintenance money, the funding that was used for the road safety scheme outside schools has been complete for many years. So I think if members wanted to request this on behalf of the school, or if it come from a road safety event with the children, etc., I think it's been looked at, and we can reprofile the hump, but it would be what an engineer had termed as within tolerance, within guidance, which is why it's come through to Township for consideration.
Oh, sorry, I don't understand, Chair. So is it to do with maintenance? So does the speed bump actually need any money spending on it?
From a technical engineer's point of view, I think the answer might be no, but obviously that can differ once you're on site.
Chair, you've got Councillor Taylor and Durnley both want to come in.
Right, Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Chair. This project has come at the recommendation of the Highways Department after examining the road. Now, they subsequently said, it's within tolerance, but they actually feel it ought to be done. And that's why this project has come to the Pennines meeting.
Okay. Councillor Dudley?
Yeah, well, I think Councillor Taylor summed it up earlier when he said that when they resurface the road, they obviously don't resurface the humps. So then the hump becomes lower because the surface is now higher on that road. So that's the reality of it, and therefore it isn't the height that it was when it was put in. So in my view, it really should be paid for out of Highways General Funds.
Councillor Emsley?
Basically, what we're saying is that the engineer knows less than the children at Wardle Academy, because the hump is no longer fit for purpose. It does not slow traffic down. Therefore, maintenance would seem to suggest that it should be raised. And as they've said, the road surface has been raised around it, and as it's been raised, the hump hasn't got smaller, but it's got less effective. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Besford.
I think we've had this conversation quite a few times in recent ones of these meetings about things that have come to townships, but actually we feel should come out of a central part. Councillor Blundell's made a proposal there, which is that basically we approve it, but go back to Cabinet and see whether they'll fund it centrally. I would propose, would sort of second that proposal and see if we can move on from there.
Chair, if I can just come in on that particular item, these funds are delegated from council to the township committee rather than to cabinet. If you want it incorporating in the wider highways programme, those are determined by township committees themselves, and unless Chris can advise that there's a central fund where we can put this in a cabinet programme, it would be a township decision.
I think the one challenging issue is I think it's been assessed and it's within tolerance, so technically there is no maintenance to undertake on this hump, but I appreciate there's a strong feeling locally that you would like the hump to be higher than it is. That technically wouldn't meet the criteria, if you will, or the intervention to use highway maintenance funding. Don't disagree with the sentiment, but yes, in terms of that funding, it wouldn't naturally be available in the highways maintenance budget.
Yeah, can I just, Tom Besford seconded my motion, so we should vote on it now. I think obviously we're going to do this because it sounds crazy that we put a speed bump in and then raise the road so it's no longer a hump. But at the same time, and it comes down to this, what members complain about a lot when it comes to highways, common sense. So whoever was at that point in time putting the tarmac down next to the hump, I know you can't write common sense into contracts, but it's really what winds up the public, and it just looks like an utter waste of money. To boot, to then rub salt in the wound to pay for that, you then come and ask for the community's cash. And I think so. I just think. I think it's a bad. Well, like I said, we've got to do it, but it's a bad precedent to set, and we need to make sure something like this doesn't come back again.
So, well, how am I wording this?
The proposal is that we move the motion to spend the funds, and that. But we send it to cabinet to make a point, rather than anything else, about this is ridiculous, and hopefully they'll just get that there'll be a solution found by the time it gets to that point, and if not, then it'll come out of the township's funds, and that was seconded by Councillor Besford for people to vote on.
Through you, Chair, if I can just check, are we asking cabinet to review the policy of township highway funding?
We're asking cabinet to look at why this is not the highways funding. So you're quite right, it's delegating the decision making over what we spend in terms of highways, but what we classify as maintenance, what we classify as coming out of community funds, what we're saying and have repeatedly said is too many things that are inappropriate for township funds are coming for this pot, which is essentially what should be coming out of central services. So it's more of a political point we're making, sending it to cabinet, that this shouldn't be happening.
Okay.
We move to the vote, Chair. On the...
Sorry,
I'm going to suggest we move to the vote because we could have this discussion about every single one of the items coming up, I think. But point taken that we can go to cabinet, but I'm happy to move to approve this one.
all in favour?
In favour.
You've got approval, Chair.
Okay,
Thank
Chair.
you, Chair.
The next item is PF 14/20. This is a project called Tackling Mines. It's a borough-wide application and it's broken down pro rata based on a number of people from each township that actually attend this project. The Pennines application is for £3,885, and we have Dave Lyons on the meeting, Chair, if you're happy to let him have 5 minutes to explain what the project is.
Yes, please go ahead.
You're
Hey
muted.
there, Dave.
Yes, apologies. Good evening, everybody. Yes, my name is David Lyons and I run the organisation Tackling Minds. Tackling Minds, we run a number of angling events, be it for people with mental health, social deprivation, disabilities, families, basically for anybody. So we, as I say, we use the many benefits of fishing, which is getting people out in the green open spaces, engaging with one another, learning a new outdoor skill, and yeah, just getting the therapeutic benefits that angling brings. Now we have a large number of volunteers, both male and female, that help out at our events. The volunteers have DBS checks, safeguarding certificates, first aid certificates, and basically we have a number of different venues throughout the Rochdale borough. One in particular in the Pennines is for Todmorden Angling Club, which is Lower Townhouse. So we've been a regular, we've been fishing very regular at that event, that water. And we've also run a number of successful events with the people, or the participants that have come down. So we incorporate the Angling Trust, the Angling Trust being the governing body for angling in the UK. We incorporate their Get Fishing Awards, their fun and friendly fishing events that basically get people through the beginning course of fishing right up to being a competent angler. So basically we're wanting to expand on the project. At the minute we're quite, we don't have basically enough fishing tackle to be able to keep up with the demand of people that I'm inundated with on a regular basis. So another thing is we need to have a level 1, a level 2 angling coach on site as well. That then covers us for our insurance policies, which is on the back of the Angling Trust. So people generally find out about our events through our Facebook page. We've got over 7,000 people following us on the Facebook page. As I say, people are just messaging left, right and centre, but as I say, we can't really keep up with the demand, hence why we're wanting to expand and yes, keep up with that. So another thing, we've also joined forces with 17 other organisations within the Rochdale Borough to set up a social prescribing framework. Basically, what we found is that there's a lot of GPs, surgeries really interested in wanting to use our service, but unfortunately there hasn't got that framework in place. So we're working together, as I say, with a number of different organisations to be able to do that. Now I want to introduce you to Danny Williams. He's a representative of the Angling Trust. As I say, the Angling Trust are the governing body. They've been kind enough to follow us and support us from day one, which it was quite overwhelming to get support from such a big organisation. So I'll let Danny have a few words, if that's okay.
So I'm the Angling Development Officer for the north of the country, and we've changed our outlook on how the sport works since pretty much since the beginning of the COVID crisis in March last year. The last event that I went to was a first aid training course for our level 2 coaches. This is a stipulation of part of their licensing. And at that point in time, our focus was specifically on developing the sport within competitions and within the framework that other sports NGBs work and cover. Since then, and basically through C19, the whole structure of how we see angling has changed, and we've seen organically an interest in using angling for the health and well-being of people. As along the lines of Dave's group, which is Tackling Minds, I've probably got another dozen groups nationally that are all focusing on the needs of their local communities. We've been working with the Department for Media, Culture and Sport, and Sport England. And I think if you've kept an eye on the news, you will have noticed that where other activities have been sort of slowed up or postponed during lockdown, angling has been permitted over the last 2 lockdowns, both the one in November and also the one that we're sitting in currently. It's been allowed as a form of exercise because there's a huge section of society who sort of drop through the gaps. People who they don't identify as disabled, they don't identify as having any particular issues that sort of stops them sort of exercising in a normal fashion. However, there are people who simply can't go for a trot round the block or jump on a bike as exercise through either physical issues or a fear of contacting with other people whilst they're out and about in a local basis. So angling seems to have become quite important for a significant amount of the community. It's something that they can do on their own with support, socially distanced, correct support, and the sense of well-being and sort of good health that they get from it it comes outside of the usual sort of structures. So it's sort of, I think what Dave's doing is right at the forefront of the sport and how we interact with local communities. I'm here really as technical support for what Dave's sort of promoting. So that's all I can say at the moment. If there's any questions about how he's delivering or case studies to prove that what he's doing is specific and correct for this time, I'm happy to answer them instead.
Chair, Councillor Emsley.
Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Chair. There were some other people asked to ask a question before me. I'm happy to ask unless they want to go in first.
Right.
Chair, Chair, I'll just run through who you've got. You've got Councillor Davidson, Councillor Emsley and Councillor Taylor.
Okay. Councillor David.
Thank you, Chair. Forgive me for asking this question. We all know that in the past it was always a male-dominated time thing to do. Your dad used to do it, and your granddad used to do it. I think your scheme is absolutely fantastic. But can I ask the question: what age group do you cover, and what are you getting out of this as much as the people who are using your system to go out? Okay. Can you just explain that to me? It's just I can't get the thing on the screen where you explain things.
It's a really good question. So it is definitely a male-dominated sport, but at the same time, you would be very surprised the female participants that we do have engaging in the service. But not only that, some of our level 2 coaches, Jackie Burns, she's been a level 2 coach for 8 years, and yes, she's very much a part of what we do. So, sorry, in relation to your second question, which I said it was a good question, I've blanked, I'm afraid. I'm so sorry.
It's your age group, your span of age group, and your dynamic.
Yeah, so as for the age group, the service is available to people from the ages of 11, so starting secondary school, up until however old somebody may want to do. So what, and again, to your question, what do I get out of it personally? I have a lived-in experience with mental health myself, and I found fishing to be the best escape, the best way to get away from life stresses over medication or any type of therapy. I just want to get that across and share what I know works to other people.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Could I just back up what Dave said? Is that okay? If you've got 2 minutes.
Who? Can you say your name, please? I can't see
Sorry,
you.
it's Daniel. I'm the Angling Development Officer.
Okay.
Just on female element of it. Dave's already mentioned that we've got Jackie Burns, who's been supporting him quite heavily. We've got other female coaches that are also available that have been able to support him. And we've actually had a push on that nationally as a sport. We've identified that there's a preconception that angling is male dominated. And as Dave rightly says, to a certain extent it is. But it's like we've been working with This Girl Can, which is a Sport England campaign to increase more female participation. During a lot of our Let's Go Family Fishing events, we've reached a great deal, many more female anglers. And when you to sort of look at the sort of how that works, because obviously any sort of sport works on a sort of participation level, there must be quite a few ladies out there fishing, because when we look at the Lancashire match scene and the Yorkshire match scene, where the sort of like the pinnacle, the sort of elite athletes, if you will, of the fishing world participate, there's quite a few female anglers there. And we also have a very successful female angling team that get in the top 3 in world match and sort of international competitions on a regular basis.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I stopped you then, didn't I? I do apologise.
Well, the other bit was just on the age thing. Now, at the moment, this Dave's passion is to support people in general. So it's from families right the way through. So adults are the ones that seem to be the ones in most danger of sort of like falling into an unrecognised mental condition, depression or anxiety. Sort of they battle on without realising the damage it's doing to them internally. And some people, when you mention things like mindfulness or meditation or yoga, they don't really get the picture. But when you say to someone, "Come fishing with me," they'll tend to they don't have any preconceptions. They'll give it a go, and they'll find themselves meditating, relaxing, and becoming sort of one with nature without realizing it's happening.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right. Can I just ask here? I'm sorry, I missed out. What age group are you looking at?
From anybody into high school up until any age. And if it's anybody below high school, generally we tend to promote that towards families.
So how are those children going to be, who's going to look after them, right? Is it going to be females there, right, to look after the female children? How is it going to work out? I'm sorry, I didn't.
It's going to be obviously depending on the type of organisation or whatever participants it may be we are working with. Each of our level 2 angling coaches who will be on site have sufficient training in safeguarding children or vulnerable adults.
Okay. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Chair. I think Councillor Emsley was before me. Have I got that right, Janet?
Yes, I was. It's all right. I get used to being ignored by various people. So thanks, Chair. I'd like to ask.
Excuse today. I can't see anybody.
It's okay. I have no problem with it. So basically, when you've got somebody that's identified as being as socially prescribed to go on your scheme, what happens if they've got issues with, for example, transport? Because I noticed that you said that the people that are coming into this are coming from the different townships within the borough. And just wondered about the transport aspect of it. My second question is, having bought all this tackle, various rods, etc., and some replacement fishing tackle, etc., where's it all going to be stored? Who's going to have the kind of overseeing of where it is, so that it can be used at a later stage for a further a further scheme? Thanks, David, if you could just answer that.
Yes, not a problem. In terms of transport, as you know, it is a very wide scheme that we're aiming the service at. We have got a number of venues throughout the Rochdale area. The Rochdale borough, sorry, I'd like to say. So that then does obviously give people that option if they can't come to, say, one of the Littleborough venues. We've got all the stretch of Rochdale Canal. So we'd like to also mix it up as well, going into different areas, just to keep people interested as well. I'm sorry. As in, your next question was in terms of storage of the tackle. The storage of the tackle is in a safe in Rochdale. It would be in Rochdale. So again, that is accessible because we're working out of Rochdale. But we also run a number of different events. A different event, should I say? It's going to be over in the Bolton area eventually. But yeah, Rochdale is going to be the central storage.
So the equipment that we are buying as a borough or a township is not going to be used in Bolton, is it?
No. So we've got other tackle for that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. So.
Is it me now, Chair?
Yes, I think it is, right, John?
Thanks, Chair. Dave, can I say, I think what you're doing is really important and excellent work. Helping people with mental health issues is tremendously important work. So good on you for doing that. With that in mind, I'm thinking, well, this sounds brilliant, but how many people are we talking about? Over what time frame? Are you able to retain people? Do you have any kind of outcomes looking at long-term improvements so we can assess it going forward? And on the locations, I know you're currently in Lower Townhouse. Are there any plans to expand that into other wards across the Pennines? Possibly the canal where I see people fishing and that kind of thing. I'm just wondering what your plans are there.
Yeah, again, as I say, we've been given permission to fish, as I say, the whole stretch of canal. So that is one of our primary locations. Just because it's introducing other people to a different method of fishing, whereas on other venues, you're quite restricted to what type of species you can fish for. Again, it's for just keeping people interested. So our events, especially now it's winter, you find we don't want people to become too disheartened with the events, especially when the fish you find don't feed, the metabolism slows down. So we tend to keep the sessions a little bit shorter, up to 2-3 hours maximum. As soon as things warm up, the fish tend to bite, the fish are turned on, and then yeah, it's a lot more fun. So then we're going to be doing a longer session, so there'll be more half-day sessions as well.
In terms of the outcomes and the numbers and people, how are you going to capture that? And I mean to promote you, not challenge whether it's necessary.
So in terms of capturing the audience, as in, do you mean in terms of promoting what the service that we're offering?
So how many people are you going to deal with? Over what time frame? How is there any way you can monitor whether their mental health improves from coming to you to maybe leaving you or carrying on fishing in the future? Those kind of things.
Dave, is it okay if I support you on this question just by what I've observed since November? Yeah.
Of course.
So up to this point, Dave's been primarily working with groups of people. He's worked with a couple of supported educational establishments where he's worked with young people. Each one had a one-to-one coach. They are brought to the venue by education specialists who then do the case studies and feedback to us how that works. He's also been working with some supported groups. The one that he mentioned, I don't like to mention names on the air like this because you know what I mean with GDRP, yes, etc. But the stuff that he's been doing on the Mondays at Townhouse with Todmorden Angling Club, they're a supported group. We know how many people are there. We've got the information and the details, how they're progressing, and how they're being supported both through the program of angling, but also in their own well-being as well. I can tell you from what I've been reading and sort of like working with, and it isn't just from Dave, it's also from the groups that he's supporting. The feedback is excellent. Now, what Dave's knuckling at now is expanding beyond that, because these are people who've been identified and we're able to help them. We want to reach those people who have fallen through the gaps, the ones that might not have realized that they're in a bad place. People have been locked down now for over a year. Some have been sort of constrained to the 3 lockdown scenarios. Some have found it frustrating on the tier system. There are many people who have self-isolated through fear of contracting the disease or because of other health issues. Again, it's like angling can be, although it can be quite an active sport, you know, depending on how you sort of participate, it can also be extremely relaxing and something where you don't have to be physically that active. I know when working with disabled anglers, we have certain competitions like boat style lock fishing, where if you're in a wheelchair, you have no disadvantage against an ambulant angler. You know, it's like all your skills are in your mind and your upper body, and they can participate on an equal playing field.
Yeah. Danny and Deb, can I say thank you very much? I really like what you're doing. It's great.
Okay. Can I have Councillor Hartley?
Yeah, just a quick one, please. Does each individual angler have to have their own separate rod license, or is it a corporate one? And how do they go on with top million angling? Do they have to have a permit, or is it just one corporate day ticket?
Originally, when everybody comes into the programme for their first trial, I will supply a licence waiver that's arranged with the Environment Agency, ourselves, and the licence 2 coaches that's delivering the programme. So, so that for that first go, they don't have to put anything out there. We expect people that are enjoying the participation and want to continue further to have to purchase their own fishing rod licence. When it comes to accessing club venues, Todmorden allow Dave to use the venues for free, as many other clubs have said at this point in time. However, as the potential anglers progress through the programme, they will then go and join a club. The actual club membership for local fishing in the Lancashire area is really good. It's very, very realistic, and it's not expensive, and it doesn't really push people out. There is a section of society, though, that we have identified people who may be on furlough or struggling to find the cash for their first EA license, and we are currently looking at how to support these guys into their fishing so that they're doing it legally.
Right, thank you very much for that. My only concern was that people have to pay them money. They do it 3 times and they're bored and they don't want to do it again. But you answered me question brilliantly. Thank you.
Councillor Emsley?
So you've got quite a lot of organisations that's on your list of partnership. However, you've only got 2 organisations that are participating there. Can you explain how you're going to link with some of these other groups as well? And the second question, why are you not using Hollingworth Lake, which is somewhere that you actually stated that you would use when you were putting out the publicity in the first place?
Yeah. So as for the mental health organisations that we are planning on working with in the future, which we have been in touch with high level, the Drug and Alcohol Service, as well as Turning Point. We've got an event happening in the next couple of weeks with Mind, the mental health charity, as well. And also I've actually promoted it to other organisations to let them know about the service. So that's something we are working towards. Now, the thing with Hollingworth Lake is, don't get me wrong, it's great depending on the type of group you're working with. It's not very good if somebody's, not able-bodied. There's not many accessible fishing pegs. You're only allowed to fish towards the damn side of the wall, which means you have to go over the rocky areas. Now, if we are working with active people, Hollingworth Lake is the perfect location to fish. It's not that we haven't crossed it off the list of places. It's just not like, whereas one of the more frequent waters in Littleborough is more set out. You've got pegs, you've got pathways, but it's, again, Hollingworth Lake's there to fish different methods of fish. It's renowned for the pike fishing. So that is something would introduce that method of pike fishing to participants using that lake.
Thank you.
Okay. So do you want to discuss it between you, or is anybody proposing and seconding? How are we progressing?
Move it, Chair.
Move it,
Thank
Chair.
you,
I'm happy with
Chair.
that. Yeah.
Seconder?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, that's done. You got it.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Really
Good luck.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I just take the opportunity to thank you for being so supportive, and please, get the message out there. If you have people in your local area that you're supporting as a councillor and you feel that they'd benefit from this, please do get in touch with Dave, because it's like it really is a wonderful program, and I've seen the people coming off the bank that have worked with him. So yeah, thanks very much. Cheers.
Okay, Chair, the next one is PF 15/20. This is Willows Lane and Princess Road Estate traffic calming investigation at a cost of £2,000 in Smallbridge and Fairgrove Ward. I don't know if Chris Woods wants to give any further information on that.
Nothing from me, Chair, unless there's any questions.
Councillor Blundell?
Sorry, Chair, no, it's just I noticed Councillor Kelly's name next to the request. I was just wondering why he'd changed his view. This has been to Township in the past. Indeed, when I got the speed bumps put on the Cray estate, because the chicanes were falling over, it was mentioned at that point. It's also been read at other times. And when I had brought this to Township, Councillor Kelly and, if my memory served me right, said, well, we don't have the funds to do it. Why would you spend funds on this study? So I was just wondering why he put in a request when previously he'd not been in favour.
Do you want me to come back on that, Chair?
Yes, please, right, go ahead.
Simply, we're in a different financial year. We've got the money, or we may have the money, we won't know until next year, and received a petition from 142 people requesting the same, because what seems to have happened is that because the Cray's at 20, people speed up when they come out of that zone to reach Willows Lane and to reach Princess Road, either of those two routes, and likewise going back in. I think we'll also recognise that the actual speed on Rochdale Road has increased massively. It's a problem that I'm experiencing all the way from the top of Neway right the way down to town at the minute. Reports of speeding cars in, well, at any time of day, really. I was going to say in the evening, but it's most time of day. And there just appears to be an awful lot more traffic increase speeding on Willows and on Princess Road.
Chair, it just would have been nice at the time if he would have been supporting, because all these measures would have been put in place and we could have dealt with the issue in the round when we was putting the speed humps in. And I just feel that, this type of politicking is a bit unhelpful, especially he's not in his ward either. And he had in the past said there's no point to it because we couldn't afford it, given how costly it was to do the Cray. So I just thought it was a bit odd that it would then pop out of the ground with his name on it. He'd not spoken to any of the ward councillors. It just smacks a bit of party politicking, which we tend to avoid when we're dishing money out.
Well, to be fair, John, it was passed through Tracy.
Can everybody go through the chair, please? Not have a.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah.
I've not finished speaking. Which we avoid when we're dishing out township funds. We've always worked well across wards. So I just think it would have been helpful if Councillor Kelly had gone through the correct channels, and when it had come up, when I'd suggested it, he would have supported it. And however, I still support the scheme. It's a good idea. It was a good idea when I suggested it many years ago, and it would have been better to have done it at the time. But nonetheless, I support this item, but a bit less politicking would be helpful.
So just to come back on that, Chair, if it's okay.
Yes, of course you can. Of course you can.
In fairness, this was passed to the Pennines Township officer, to Tracy, who's not here tonight. And as I saw the report come back the first time, it had Councillor Amnamia's name on it. So I think it's only tonight that it's shown up with my name. I don't know if that's a clerical error or not, but as far as I was concerned, it went through ward councillors before it came here, and it was sponsored by Councillor Mia. So I'm at a loss as to why it's got my name on it, because it went through the correct channels as per. And John, from one year to the next, finances change and budgets change. And at the time, and I don't recall when it was, but it must have been 5-6 years ago, was it? Perhaps that early on, since the Cray was done. Well, about that, I mean, we're in a different financial year completely. So when a group of people come to you and ask for something, that's how the process has gone in. As far as I'm concerned, it's gone through Tracy, it's gone through Township, it's gone through the ward councillors.
Well, Cray was done a couple of years ago.
Chair, you've got councillors
Right.
Hussain and Emsley who wish to comment.
Right. Councillor Hussain?
Thank you, Chair. As far as I know, in the last 10, 11 years I've been councillor, I've had one resident in the support of speed calming measure, and I've had about 4 to 5 residents against the speed calming measure. They think there's a waste of money and waste of time. I would like to know from Councillor Kelly how many residents have approached him. Secondly, I would like to ask Chris Wood, that how much this scheme will cost, because there's no point us spending £2,000 to preparing a report and then we can't afford it. Thank you.
Who was next? Sorry, is it you, Councillor Emsley?
Yes, similar question to Councillor Hussain, actually. I was just going to say, this is £2,000 for a survey. Obviously, the work needs to be done. Can we ask Highways Officer to give us some indication of approximately how much it would cost? Is Chris Wood still on?
Yes, he's there.
Yeah.
Chris?
Thank you, Chair. I suppose that's why we're doing the investigation. I couldn't possibly, I mean, it'd be a complete finger in the air until we know roughly where would be suitable to put humps. I don't know if there would be 3 or 30 humps, if I'm being. I do know the area, but without a proper assessment from a traffic engineer, I couldn't begin to put a figure on what that might cost.
Through you, Chair. So say it was going to cost approximately the same as Temple Lane, Chris, how much would that be?
Temple Lane, I think, was £10,000.
Okay.
For it's a completely different.
I know. I'm just asking for an indication.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be. I'm not going to hold you to account on it, Chris. Thank you.
No.
Right. Councillor Blundell has a comment to make.
Hello, yeah. What's it called? The problem actually on those roads, there is the bend on Princess Road, which is a problem. But Willows Lane has islands in it and a heavy amount of traffic, which has meant that those residents have actually in the past spoken against the idea of having speed humps. Where both streets have actually been supportive is having a one-way system, because when you try and pull out of Princess Road, you cannot see to your right because of the hedge and the way the buildings are. But you can when you pull out of Willows Lane. And when you're pulling into Willows Lane, you hold people up. So what people have actually suggested in the past wasn't actually traffic calming measures other than the bend on Princess Road, which is dangerous, but they have asked for a one-way system. However, as Councillor Hussain has said, that also has a lot of opposition to it, but obviously that system's a lot cheaper to implement than lots of sleeping policemen. So if we are going to commission anything, it should be to look at it in the round, including a one-way system, not just putting in speed humps. And that will actually come back with A, what residents want, and B, a more affordable system. Had Councillor Kelly actually asked us this, I would have told him that at the time, because that was what was proposed many years ago, and what residents actually want. Not, do you want more sleeping policemen filling my survey? That's not what, that's when you speak to people in that area, that's not what they've asked for. So if we are going to commission this, which I think we should, actually, it should be for looking at the one-way system as well, and more particularly the bend on Princess Road and what can be done there.
Yeah, can I just add? Oh,
sorry. It's very difficult with no system, isn't it? Sorry, Chris.
Sorry, all I was just going to say is Highways would be more than happy to have that as the scope of the report. It's no issue. The only thing I would say from a Highways point of view is making roads one way it does tend to increase the average speed of the road. So one, happy to look at it, no issue if that's what you want to change the scope to upon approval. But it is likely that a report that looked at one-way systems may very well also go on to include some traffic calming system with it as well. But happy to produce that kind of report and send it back to members for discussion and options for funding in the future.
And that won't, and Chair, that will have some opposition, and that's why in the past we've just kind of let sleeping dogs lie. But if we are going to look at this, we should look at what residents have actually asked for over the years.
Okay.
Councillor Durnley, Chair.
Right, Councillor Durnley.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's always an interesting issue, traffic calming measures, and I remember putting them on Starring Way on Bent's Farm and the controversial issues that created, and neighbour against neighbour sometimes. And what we actually did as ward councillors prior to that was questioned everyone, got replies from everyone. And the majority were for traffic calming, but it wasn't significant. It does divide opinion very much, but I do think almost before money's spent, you might be okay to do this survey, but it's not a bad idea to actually get the views of everyone who lives there initially to see whether it's actually worth pursuing it at all. You just might find that it sounds as though it has been in the past almost 50-50, different views on it. And therefore, is it sensible to even go ahead? I don't know the area, but as ward councillors, it might be something worth looking at. Going off my experience on Starring Way, it certainly was the best thing to do before we spent any money.
Councillor Hussain. Councillor Hussain.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I completely agree with Councillor Donnelly that it will be much cheaper to send the letters out than spending £2,000 on a survey report, which probably a lot of people will be against. Also, we might not have the money to carry out the work. So it's better off sending the letters from the council to the residents and get the view of the residents. And then we can discuss the surveys or any other work needs carrying out. Thank you.
Second that, Chair.
To come back to Councillor Hussein's question earlier, Chair, the answer to your question was 142, but I don't think it was all about speed humps. I think there were some options for chicanes and other traffic calming measures. So I think you'll find that the majority of residents on Willows Lane and on Princess Road are in favour of some traffic calming of some sort. And I think that if what this report does is it gets us to the next stage to be able to work out what that is, I think we should progress with it.
Okay. So this proposal that Councillor Hussain and Blundell put forward, like I said, right, somebody else has to count the hands, right? Are you all in favour of it?
Point of order, Chair. Do we not need to vote on whether the proposal goes through rather than an alternative first?
No, you do the alternative. Whoever moves the seconds it first is what you vote on. But after I've moved that, we write to residents, survey them, and I seconded that, and that can come back to the next. If there's a budget attached, it can come back to the next funding township.
Chairman, I just to add, I just think that's a much more a better way of dealing with it, whereby it keeps any party politics from any party out of it, and you get a clear response from residents of how they actually see it. I mean, you know, a lot of people will answer surveys saying, "Oh, yeah, we want traffic calming," without actually thinking of what the reality is of that. And if the officers put something together with the support of the councillors as the best way to send that letter out, you do get a fair and a reasonable response, and then you're in a much stronger position to move, I feel.
Chair, can I just come in on this? Chris will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming there would be a budget implication if highways were going to do a resident survey. So would it be agreeable to do a delegated decision if that's the case?
Yes, I think that would be much better.
Thank you.
Right, is everybody in the agreement with that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Okay.
don't know what's been proposed. I'm a bit unclear now.
Through you, Chair. I think if we can just clarify for everybody's sake, that members are being asked to approve a delegation to the chair in consultation with the head of highways for a survey to be undertaken in relation to this scheme with local residents, with associated costs delegated to the chair to approve.
And do we know what that rough cost would be for a survey of that nature?
For you, Chair, probably not. Not far short of £2,000, I imagine. It is a very large estate, isn't it? From if the whole Willows Lane, Princess Road estate. It's yeah. I will have to go and do some homework on the costs.
Can I just come in here now, right? With the letters, we're reaching every household, right? With the traffic study, right? We only getting what traffic is passing through there, not the views of the residents that live there. So if we get the view of the resident that live there, wouldn't that be much better, Chris? What they want, right? We might put in and they hate them.
Yeah, I've no objection, Chair, to what's been proposed from a highways point of view.
Chairman, highways are always really good at inflating prices, and this is a good example of it. I mean, isn't there a way that we could at least have them hand delivered by the local council? We don't need to pay first-class postage. I think you're sending everyone special delivery, Chris, at this rate. You don't need to cost £2,000 to just do a couple of avenues in Fir Grove.
In the past, for just about in the past, the other ones we've done, we've had to offer a free post return service because typically people's response is quite low if they have to.
Yeah.
So we've done that in the past. That's the only reason why I appreciate
But still
X number of letters
you
won't cost that
reduce
much.
50% of your cost.
Okay. In any case, we've now got an indicative cost. Somebody's moved it, somebody seconded it, and I think we're all agreed with that. We actually want to hear what the residents have to say, given we've got different versions of events, and I think that's important. So if we just vote and move on, I think that's the best route now.
Right. All in favour of the new proposal?
Those against, Chair?
Against?
That's approved, Chair.
Sorry, Chris. Sorry, Michael. What?
That was that was approved. You can move on to the next item.
Okay.
Okay, Chair. The next one is PF 16/20 Calder Avenue area wooden posts at a cost of £8,000. I believe this is a result of a resident requesting this due to parking issues, and I don't know if Chris wants to add anything to that.
Yes, very brief background. We were approached by ward members. One resident approached and offered to surface part of a damaged grass verge, but obviously I think only near his property. There were one or two issues with that from a highways point of view, and the elected members wanted a more comprehensive scheme that looked at all the areas. An engineer's been out and assessed all the streets that are on the commissioning form and come up with a price in accordance with the spec agreed with members for wooden posts at 2 metre centres all around the grass verge.
Councillor Hartley?
Yeah, just to say, I've had loads of complaints in the past about the four-wheel drive delivery just constantly turning up the grass verges. And I would support anything that will keep the vehicles off the grass verges. But my concern in saying that is, if they don't go on the grass verges and they double park on each side of the road, how about the width in the middle of the road for emergency vehicles getting through? Has that been addressed?
No, that is an issue with these types of schemes, and that's something we would have to look into if it were to occur. I know some properties have drives and some don't, so it's a difficult issue to try and fully engineer out.
Councillor Donnelly, please.
Thank you, Chair. In Wardle and Alderbank, and I think it was an area in Littleborough that had the same thing. We had this surface put down where you could park on a small section of the grass verge, and so your posts went further back so that you'd still got the parking for people that need it, but you could keep the road relatively clear. Is that something that you'd consider for this, or is this not what the residents want in that area? I don't know.
Councillor, I missed second person, right? Who was next? I'm so sorry. Today is really bad.
I think it should have been me next on this occasion, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Chair. I wonder on this one, I fully understand how the grass verges look an absolute mess, but Councillor Hartley almost raised the point I was going to raise, and I wonder whether the option of paving what's now the grass verge has been considered so cars can park on it, therefore allowing emergency vehicles to actually get through if necessary. Some of these roads are really quite narrow, and if you get double parked vehicles, you would not get a fire engine through there, and that could be a real risk.
Councillor Beresford, and I'm sorry I missed you.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, this was actually one of the very, very first things that ever came up when I came onto the council, and it's been going on for a number of years. What's happening at the moment is that grass is being churned up incredibly, and we're having to go in and basically redo it all. From the looks of what we've been through this internally with Chris and within ward councillors, and we really think that this is the best and probably only solution to be able to reach this. I'm really keen to push this through and to try and get backing and support from members about this tonight, partly because we have the capacity within the budget, whereas we might not in another year. And this is a solution that really needs sorting out, and I think the idea of concreting over or tarmacking over, I don't think will be supported. I think it really adds to the character of that part of Calder Avenue and the surrounds. And I'd also say that actually the road is relatively wide, and and most of the areas do have drives on them. So I don't think this would be a problem. But if the roads were blocked to double park, then that would be something that would be looked at. But I'm pretty certain that residents in that area would consider this. But it's something that's come up again and again and again, and I don't want to see it kicked down the road or put forward. We've been around loads of solutions, and this is by far and away the best one. So I'd fully support this.
Yeah, you've got Councillor Durnley and Councillor Emsley.
Councillor Donnelly?
No, I spoke. I would just ask the question about the alternative.
Okay, Councillor Emsley, please.
Just to say that we've looked at all sorts of options on this. We have looked at changing the grass to crating, which Ashley just referred to. Too expensive, Ashley, too much of an area to do. Really, really expensive. We're talking about a five-figure sum. And we've looked at moving some of the grass out, but this is an area that's been prone to flooding in the past. If we start taking out grass, we're taking out the sponge that takes in some of the water. And we've looked at concreting it. Indeed, we tried a little trial patch on one of the part of Calder Avenue. So we've done all that. This is our last trial at a different solution. If it turns out that it's not good, then obviously it'll have to come out. But we just need to try something, because it's we're repairing it more than we're, more than the cost of this. We need to do it. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Anybody else wants to say anything on
Can we
this?
move it? Can we move it, Chair? All three ward councillors are supporting.
I've got Councillor Hartley who got a question.
Yeah, I'm very happy to support this. But can I propose, because it's on on land that's was it transferred to RBH in the stock transfer? And if so, can we ask them for a contribution towards this 8,000? Perhaps Chris could tell us that if it's predominantly ours, yes, I'll support. But if the land was in any way transferred to RBH with the stock transfer of the houses, what they still rent, if you on there, could we ask them for a contribution towards it, please?
Okay. Can I now move towards the proposal, please? All in favour?
In favour.
Anybody against? Michael?
Are there any abstentions, Chair?
Anybody abstaining?
No, in which case it's approved then, Chair. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Chair, the next one is PF 17/20. This is a project called Artist Portal for a total of £3,180. And we have Elizabeth White on to talk to members about this project.
Okay.
Hello. Good evening. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for inviting us today. There's a growing community of artists in the Pennine area, and we've also got a bit of something of a creative brain drain towards Todmorden and Hebden Bridge, and we've been looking at ways of how we can help support the artists that are working in the area. And one of the things we came across, which is quite common in other areas, is to have a portal, which is a website where artists put their work up and a link to their website so that people can contact them direct. I mean, one of the issues at the moment is that if you want to contact an artist in Rochdale or in the Pennines, then, you know, you can go to Ebor Studios, and Cara does get a lot of requests. You can go to Councillor Emsley, or you can come to Little Arts Festival, but there's no actual way of doing it that doesn't involve trying to find out from someone. And if they don't know that person, then you're at a stop. So, for instance, if a school wants some people to do puppets with the children, we want there to be a portal where they can click in and look for a puppet maker or a mural artist or whatever from the area. Because at present what's happening is they're having to look elsewhere, sort of into Manchester and things, for artists when we've actually got the artists in the area. So it's about promoting the artists in the area, about having something that looks professional. Artists have had a really difficult time this year. I think we all know that, and creative people. And we feel this, we could do something here to support them. They are businesses in a lot of cases, and they are earning their income from this. So, you know, anything we can do to keep them, to keep creative businesses in the Pennine area, I think is really important. Crane Connect has been set up with the idea, this is just one of our schemes of linking people together with artists and makers and, you know, musicians and everybody. And, you know, I do hope you can support this, because I think it's really important we get something started. Bury, for instance, has Bury Collective, Peak District Artisans have theirs. And what we're looking for is a really good portal where anybody, if you would like a portrait of yourself done, then you can go onto it and look for portrait artists and find one who is based in the area. And I'm sure we all want to support people who are based in our area. We also want to encourage people to actually come to the area to set up as artists and makers. We have this studios, Ebor Studios, which is always full and always has a waiting list. Hare Hill House has some studios, but you know, there is a lot of space around here. So we do, you know, want to promote this and act as an organisation which will draw people together on this one and promote the Pennines as a creative township. So, I'm quite happy to answer any questions.
Chair, I think in the order in which comments have been requested, Councillor Emsley, Councillor Besford, Councillor Kelly. I'll update after that.
Councillor Emsley?
I don't think I was first, but I'm going to take the opportunity just to say that I completely support this in terms of this is good for our community and it's good for our profile within the artistic world. And Elizabeth is right. We've got homegrown talent here that needs to be promoted. And this is one way in which we could do it. Totally support this application.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's the best for Chair.
Thanks. Just 3 questions, if I may, from reading through the application. Can you, Elizabeth, can you tell us a little bit about how this is different from if we were to set up a Facebook page or a Facebook group, which obviously would not have any other cost implication attached to it? The second question is, I've noticed in the application you're saying that you would charge artists to be able to post this content on there. Do you have any kind of idea about the scale of demand which would warrant how long it would take an artist to get back their charges? And the third thing is that in the budget, you've got budget in there for marketing per hour rate, but I can't see any actual other budget line for what that marketing will be spent on, so how you will market it. So I wonder if you can just address those 3 things. Thanks.
Yes, so can you just give me the first one again, please?
Yeah, first one is, why couldn't you use a Facebook page?
Yeah, well, there are lots of sort of things that people try to do this. There is a Rochdale Artist Network, and the last time anyone posted on it was 2013. Unless things are set up properly and professionally, you won't attract professional artists, and this is what we're hoping to do. Yes, we could set up something like that, but these things fade when somebody sort of just gives up. We all do a lot of voluntary work, but eventually things go. Whereas if we set up something that's professional, in terms of the cost, we're hoping to be able to set it up so that the first time people go on, it's free. We are looking, if we get enough members, and we have done a survey on this, that they should perhaps be able to pay £10 a year, which is not, beyond the grounds of possibilities. There may be other ways of raising funds for the portal in terms of selling prints of the work or whatever, but that's a second stage and we're not looking at that yet. In terms of the marketing, before we went into lockdown, I and others organised some networking lunches in Rochdale to try and get the artists together. And it was so time consuming and so difficult. I mean, at that time we were trying to cover Hayward and Middleton, etc. But we did find that most of the artist makers in the area were based in the Pennines Township, which is why we want to start off here. But it's not just a question of putting an advert in the paper and saying, artists come here. It's a question of people talking to artists and telling them, this is what we're doing, will you join us, etc., etc. Because until we actually get a base and a number of people, it's very difficult. And I mean, Councillor Besford, artists, find it very difficult to make a living these days and to be doing anything other than that. So what we're hoping is that we will employ somebody to actually market it in terms of, when people show an interest, ringing them up, getting them actually signed up, and getting the quality of photographs and things. So if somebody sends in the photograph and it's not good enough quality, somebody's got to go back to them and say, can we have a better quality photograph? Can we have this information? And all that takes time, and that's what we're hoping to do, to employ somebody to do that. Does that answer the question?
It absolutely does. Yeah, thank you. Happy to move this or second it.
Councillor Kelly, Chair.
Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions, please, if it's okay. The first one relates to where the artists are from. So how do we guarantee that people are going to be in the Pennines? So i.e., we don't have people from Bolton or people from Hebden or Todmorden joining. So I guess we're funding a Pennines project, and that's why you've come here. But I do notice in the first paragraph that you put in with the aims and objectives, you mentioned Littleborough 4 times, but not any other townships, wards in the township. So I'm interested to know how many people are not in Littleborough and whether this is just a Littleborough project or whether it's actually genuinely a Pennines wide one.
Absolutely, it's definitely a Pennine wide one. I mean, one of the sort of drivers is that there's a glass studio opened up in Milnrow, at the mill next door, and I know them, and they've sort of said, you know, how do we promote ourselves? How do we get out? They said there's somebody else next door in that building. This is because this has happened in lockdown. I haven't been able to go out and see them, but we would certainly. Yes, there are people in other parts of the Pennines, you know, that would think. In terms of other people, I mean, sort of, if we were so popular and so, you know, ahead of ourselves, and somebody from Bolton wanted to join, I mean, my suggestion would be to charge them a lot of money. But that would be a question of us, you know, looking at our committee, looking at it and seeing that. But it's definitely not our intention to approach people who are living further afield. We want this to be a locally based one to promote local artists. You know, and as I say, we need to be able to find out where they are. Yes, you know, whether they're in Smallbridge or whatever. But and that's why the marketing is going to be so important. Does that answer your question?
Just for clarity then, the people who join, is there a check against the postcode where they live or where they practice or where the studio is, or is there a criteria for joining, I guess is what I'm asking?
Yes, I mean, we're expecting, and obviously it's the people we approach first off, and it'll be the people who do have a postcode in the Pennine area. It could extend to people who are working, artists who are working in the Pennine area, maybe living in Deeplish or something like that. I don't see that would be a problem, you know, but certainly it would, you know, these organisations tend to be specific for the very reason that we want to be able to get them together, and we want to be able to improve the creative, you know, ambience of the area. And it is not, you know, if I've used Littleborough too much, I apologise, but for the whole of Rochdale, we've only got one studio which is based in Littleborough, and I would dearly love to have one based in Milnrow as well.
As would I, and that's the end of my question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I have Tom Besford? Does anybody want to talk about it anymore, or can
Councillor Taylor's got a question, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Elizabeth, for the update. I love anything that promotes the Pennines and improves the quality of life for people around here, whether that's economically, culturally, or any other way. Well, looking at the figures, there's quite a lot of staff time in there. So when will we get to the point when this is self-funding, or is it something we're going to be expected to fund year on year? Would any local artist who doesn't take part in this then become disadvantaged by not being a part of it, if it's as successful as you want it to be? Really, are my two questions.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I mean, I think we've it's difficult to time things at the moment because we can't get people together and things like that, but we certainly hope sort of by the end of the year to have this up and running and to have some sort of launch, where, you know, somewhere in the, or maybe 2 launches or whatever. From talking to people, and we have spoken to an awful lot of people, I haven't met anybody who said they wouldn't want to do this. Everybody said, oh, thank goodness. I mean, if we were charging £100 a time, then certainly people would, but our intention is to keep it, you know, either to have two levels that people can, you know, decide which level they pay. They can either pay you know, just a minimum amount, or they can, if they feel that they're doing really well out of it, a larger amount. So I don't see sort of that as a problem. Yes, I do realise there's a lot of time in it, but it's going to take a lot of time to get all these people together. I mean, you know, I worked on the networking lunches, and, you know, the hours that we spent, I mean, going out to Haywood and Middleton to talking to craft shops and things like that to try and identify where the artists are. It's really difficult, and, you know, there is work for the artists in the area, and at the moment it's going outside the area. We, you know, yes, we don't have everything, you know, and someone like Nomad coming in to do the murals was amazing, but there are lots of sort of smaller parts of work that, you know, we can really use our own people for, you know, and maybe persuade people like Nomad to move here, you know.
Okay,
have I answered your question? I can talk all day, sorry.
When will it become self-funding, or is this something, if it's approved, will be year on year?
It's not intended that the funding we require is to set it up. when we've looked at it, if we set it up properly in the first case, we've worked out the costs of maintaining this, and that if we have, I can't remember the figure for the number of artists, say we have 50 artists paying £10 a head, that £500 we should fund it. It should give somebody you know, an honorarium for putting the stuff on there, and it should pay the ongoing costs of keeping a website, because the websites are not free, you know. So, you know, so but once the design's up, once you know, and then so you know, I don't see us coming to you in 12 months' time wanting more money for this project. I'll probably be here for something else. I'm warning you now, but not for this one.
Thanks very much. That answers my question.
Thank you.
Can I move it? I think pretty much everybody likes the idea, and I think
Tom has moved it, and Janet has seconded it. Can I now have a show of hands who's supporting it?
Yeah, that's approved, yeah. Just for clarification, where comments in chat move something that we have to do it in public so the public can see via the video. So it does need to be moved and seconded in person.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair, the next one is PF 18/20, and that's St John's Church Graveyard wall repair. The cost is £1,000, and we do have Reverend Rachel Battershell on the call.
Good evening, everybody. I'm asking for £1,000 to repair our dry stone wall at St John's. St John's Church is actually a closed building, but what it means is that the two churches in their vicinity are being left with the responsibility of maintaining the churchyard as it is still open, so it's not under the council responsibility as yet. The wall is half collapsed already, or some of it has collapsed already, and so that's what we're looking to start looking at improving the churchyard, and that's the first thing. The second thing I will be doing is organising a voluntary group, hopefully, to maintain the churchyard moving forward, but with COVID I've had to postpone that till this year. Any questions, anybody?
Thank you. Right, Councillor Emsley?
Just a question, Rachel. The church is for sale, isn't it? So will the responsibility for the wall go with that sale?
No.
Right, and you then said that the council would have responsibility. How would that happen?
In time, the diocese, what they have to do is they have to close the churchyard, and when the churchyard is closed, it becomes the borough's responsibility. But that has not happened as yet.
Okay.
But they think that they are going to do that with all our closed churches across the country. So, but that's not happening yet. It takes time to close the churchyard.
Thanks for clarifying that, Rachel. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor, was it Councillor Kelly?
Councillor Durnley, I think.
Councillor Durnley, sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. A couple of things. Well, first of all, it's actually in Wardle and West Littleborough Ward, not in Small Bridge. But the part of the wall that's damaged, is this the part at the back going onto the estate, not onto the main road?
No, it's on the east end of the building, so on the front of the church, the churchyard at the front on the main road. It's bowing into other people's properties that are next door it, as well as that has collapsed.
And an interesting point, you mentioned the closure of the graveyards.
Yeah.
So the council obviously take control of that. Does that mean, therefore, that no one would be able to be buried in that graveyard?
Yeah, so at the moment, in theory, people can be buried in the churchyard, though I don't have a lot of records, so I wouldn't know where to put anybody. But legally, I could. When it's closed, that means it stops anybody being interred into the graveyard. Yeah.
Even the ones with existing graves?
No, it means that we can put on top of other people.
Yeah,
Yes,
you can't.
a new grave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
move it.
Can
I'll
I have a
move it.
second?
I'll move it. Happy to support it. It's fine.
Chair, it's
Can I
moved
have
and
a show of
seconded.
hands for the support, please? Against?
Chair, that's approved.
Okay.
Okay, Chair, we now move on to two late applications that you agreed to hear tonight. PF 19/20 is cycling without age, total amount £10,289, and Diane David is on the meeting.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for inviting me. This is a small local voluntary organisation that I've set up to purchase a specially adapted trishaw to take older people who are lonely and socially isolated out on bike rides so that they can connect with nature and connect with other people and get the benefit of being outside and feel the wind in their hair. It's actually linked to a worldwide social movement, but that movement is just there for sort of support. They don't actually help you with the fundraising. We have managed to raise some funds with the GoFundMe page, and like I walked the virtual Pennine Way in January and February to raise the money to get sponsorship. It really is about addressing loneliness and the impact of loneliness on older people. It's also there to try and prevent older people placing a demand on more high cost services. So in terms of preventing people needing adult social care services, which are more costly, and health services by improving their quality of life. We've got links with some local care homes. We just want to start small and then if it's successful, develop it across the borough. The idea would be initially to go on the public bridle way from the wine press round to the cafe, maybe have a brew and then come back again, and also looking at some of the paths and roads in Milnrow. I've forgotten the name of the road now, but where it's pedestrianised and we can take people safely. I've been working closely with Mark Wynne from HMR Circle, so we can help you use the volunteer driver scheme to get people to the beginning of the rides, because we don't want to ride with passengers on the main road because we just think that there's more risks associated with that. We are intending to register as a charity, but we've had to get like the constitution, everything in place to enable us to do that. And we've only been going for a few months, so there is quite a lot of work associated with it. So yeah, we were looking for some funding towards the cost of the trishaw and some other incidental expenses. So if you've got any questions.
Anyone?
Please, Chair.
Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Diane. From other places, what has the take-up been like?
I haven't got figures on that, but it's quite a growing movement. There's quite a few chapters, and there's one in Trafford. So I think it will start slowly, but then they get to taking like 2 or 3, 4 rides a day, sorry. And in other places, they're linking quite closely with the care homes, but I'm quite keen on getting people who actually live in their own homes who are isolated as well, by leafleting or getting in touch with GPs and linking into the social prescribing that was mentioned earlier. So if you've got one trishaw, there is obviously a limit to how many rides you can take people on. But I was working it out, and I reckon maximum in the summer would be 28 rides a week. And that would equate to nearly 1,500 rides a year, but then you'd have to cut that down because of winter. People probably won't want to go out in winter, but it is quite popular across the country. And in Scotland, the government actually funds it. So they have quite, they have more trishaws and more sort of service available.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councillor.
I think it sounds great. I like doing schemes like this because a lot of these things wouldn't happen without township funding, like you just said. The Scottish Government fund it, another GM borough fund it. So I think we should just move to support it.
Thank you.
I've got
seconded.
Right, sorry, you have to wait. Right, I've got Councillor Bestford, right, wanting to ask a question.
Thanks. I agree. It sounds like a really important and worthwhile project. I suppose my question would be how it funds, similar to Councillor Taylor in the last one actually, is that how it funds itself beyond this point? Because I can see the initial equipment costs are in there, but is there a charge for residents to use this? And if not, how are the people who are doing the cycle rides, how are they, once it's all up and running and you paid for your equipment, how will that be funded after the first year?
So there is no charge. The ethos of Cycling Without Age is you don't charge for it. Obviously, you can ask for a donation. The pilots are completely volunteers. The board members are all volunteers. So once you've got the initial outlay for the tri-show, obviously there's the insurance. So, but the GoFundMe page that we've got is covering the insurance side of it. So actually, in terms of funds, there's the servicing of the bike, but it is quite low. In terms of running costs and revenue costs, it is quite low, so it is sustainable once you've had the outlay on the tri-show.
Thanks for that. So basically, once we've given this initial outlay to buy the equipment, it's off and away.
Yeah, well, it's about 5 weeks to get the tri-show.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else got any question?
Councillor Emsley seconded it.
Okay. Can I have a show of hand now, please, right, to see?
It's approved, Chair.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
Chair. The final revenue scheme is PF 20/20 from Littleborough Arts Festival. This is for a scheme around COVID recovery and looking forward. Total amount asked for is £2,385, and we have Helen Shecourt and Rose Bibby on the meeting.
I declared an interest at the start, but I wonder if Michael or someone's going to stick me in a breakout room, or do I just leave the meeting? I think
Kicked him out, Chair.
Yeah, get him out.
You have no authority here, Michael.
Appointed by the Chief Executive to be the clerk for this meeting.
Hiya. So I'm the new Vice Chair of Littleborough Arts Festival. Quite a lot of the trustees have recently changed. So thanks for considering this as a late application. I'm just going to pass on to Helen Shecourt to discuss the details of the application that we've sent in.
Hello, welcome Rose and welcome Helen. Right, so please go ahead.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so this is a late application, which it kind of emerged as we got much more demand for arts workshops than we were expecting. So just to give you a little bit of context, as Rose has just described, we've got an almost completely new set of trustees for the Arts Festival. And so we've been sort of picking up some of the stuff that was hanging on from previous years and planning for the future so that we can try and sustain this this fantastic festival that's been built for us. So recently we've been setting up some workshops to pick up some funded provision from Arts Council funding from earlier in the year, which was an excellent programme that had been organised through Ebor Studios, which engages local people into participation in arts activity, and also provides opportunities for young artists to lead those workshops. And yeah, basically we just got more demand than we could meet, so hence the late application, because this emerged just a few weeks ago, and we thought, you know, since we're in this kind of coming out of lockdown phase, hopefully, and it'd be really good to just have an offer for people that will be meaningful for them as we build our confidence. We're working towards a bigger festival in 2022, and so of course I hope you are happy to expect an application next year to support that. And one of the things we're really keen to do is to kind of build the capacity of our kind of local infrastructure, so that we're creating the environments and the spaces where arts can flourish, not just to enrich our lives and well-being, but also in terms of the economy of the local area as well. So yeah, so the sort of future applications will include arts activity and festival activity, but also capacity building, particularly targeting young people. And so we're developing some exciting collaborative development programs with the Cooperative University and the Feral Arts School. So I hope you'll be excited to hear about those in the future.
All right, Councillor Emsley.
I'd just like to, I kind of should have declared an interest, I suppose, because one of the things that this will do is it will provide more, It will
So-
provide more places for people that couldn't get on those workshops, including me. I couldn't get on the workshops despite the fact that as soon as they were up there, I was on there, they'd all gone. So if this expands what you're doing, I welcome it totally.
Okay. Councillor Kelly?
Yeah, just a quick one, just in terms of, I'm going to support it, no problem. But what does it actually get us? How many workshops does either 2, 3, or 4, or 7 goes?
Okay.
I'm going to defer to Richard for that because I haven't got the particular document in front of me.
So it's 7 workshops.
Say again, Richard, I interrupted you. I think that's what you said.
So there's 7 workshops planned within that budget. And I think that the capacity is about 60 attendees.
At each one, or in total?
No, that's in total. That's what the workshops that we currently ran were 7 workshops with 60 attendees. Obviously, the plan for this is to try and expand the attendees to that. Obviously, as with running any Zoom-based or online working, having too many is always a difficult thing. But the artists, I think, feel more comfortable in having a slightly larger capacity for these upcoming workshops. So obviously, we all get more and more used to the online technologies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions? John?
I'd just like
John,
to move
sorry,
it.
missed
I think
all
it
what
sounds
you
great.
said.
Sorry, I said I'd just like to move it. I think it's great.
Okay. Who's seconding it?
Seconded.
Anybody?
I'll second
Right.
it.
Okay. Can I have a show of hand, please?
Move, Chair.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Andrew.
Okay, Chair. That
Thank you.
concludes the revenue applications. I'll come back to the balances once we've gone through the capital. The funds available on capital are £4,110. There are 2 applications for consideration that total more than that, so you wouldn't be able to fund both of these. The first one is TC 0920 Clough Street and Heath Road waiting restrictions at a cost of £4,000. The originator of this request was a resident, and I don't know if Chris Woods wants to add anything.
Yep, thank you. Very briefly. So it's previously been to Pennines Township funding sub and was deferred. I'm not aware of the reason for deferral. I don't think it was at the meeting, but there is a plan attached in the report pack which just outlines, I think, the key issue that's been raised with the highways team, and it's just, I mean, we're getting it a lot now, but it's in relation to parking fully on a footway. It's not something we can deal with as the council in terms of enforcement. Parking fully on the footway would sit with Greater Manchester Police, but our solution involves a traffic regulation order for W Alliance to just prevent that kind of parking, clear the visibility displays. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor John Taylor.
Thanks, Chair. I was going to comment on this in general, not a question for Chris. But since it was deferred, I've been to the site, and if there are no questions for Chris, I'll comment on this.
Okay. Anyone else?
Move point. This is the only one we can afford.
Right. Well, Chair, do you want me to come back in? It doesn't look like there are any questions for Chris.
No, there isn't any. Please do come back.
Yeah, myself, Councillor Durnley and Tracy have visited the site. We've looked at it. Given the pressure on budgets, I would suggest this one is withdrawn. The benefits, I don't think really are commensurate with the amount of money involved. So I'd be quite happy as a ward councillor to withdraw this one.
Councillor Emsley?
My question was simply, is this more important than the next one?
Well, it's been withdrawn, right? So
that's fine. Councillor Taylor, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Right.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The final scheme is PTC 0420 Gallipoli Memorial Benches at a cost of £4,795. Just before John Rogers speaks to members, I just should point out that I believe that the land where these benches would go, if it was approved, it belongs to Network Rail. So if there was an approval, it needs to be on condition that their permission is obtained. I realise that it's above the actual budget that's available, but you could top up from revenue funds if you wanted to support.
I just query that, Chair. Did you say both sites or just the one site is Network Rail?
I think I'd have to defer that to John, if that's okay, Councillor. I'm not sure of
One,
the answer to
well,
that.
one site is Network Rail and the other site is in Milnrow.
That's correct.
So it's not Network Rail.
I see. Thank you.
Councillor Emsley?
Sorry, I was just going to say yes. What one site is Network Rail? The one in Littleborough, the one in Milnrow is not Network Rail.
Okay.
But Chair, I don't know if you wanted to invite John to speak on this.
Yes, please, right.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and good evening, councillors. My name is John Rogers. I'm the Vice Chair and Vice President of Rochdale Fusiliers Association. Now, I've been liaising with the Gallipoli Association and for a number of years, as I've a great deal of my branch have been doing the same thing. We organised a big event the year before last at the War Memorial in near the town hall. We had a really good event. Lots of people attended, and lots of young people laid wreaths, which was really nice. Also, I went to Hotwood Hall College and gave a presentation to the young people there because it's really important that people know about Gallipoli, because if you're not careful, it tends to get just sucked into the general, pardon me, the general generic remembrance. And definitely Gallipoli did have a big effect on this area. From our research, about 181 were killed from this area. Obviously, we can't recognise 181, but what we can do is recognise the two youngest. Michael Francis Murphy, the son of Michael and Catherine Murphy of 7 Stubley Fold, Littleborough. That's the one that we're hoping to put at the station. And I have actually been talking with Network Rail about this. And if you do approve this tonight, then obviously I'll get back to them to say it's been approved and we can go ahead. And then it will be up to the council then and them to work together. Also, Brinton Hollows, the son of William Hollows of 4 Whitehead Street, Milnrow. And that's the one, that the bench that there will be at Dale Street. And both of those were only 17 years of age. And one can only imagine what it would be like at 17 years of age in 1915 to be taken off from their world, which was a lot smaller than ours, and taken off to the Dardanelles and not return. To be 17, that must have been awful, particularly for the families. And I think it would be particularly nice if we could recognise that fact, that these young people died for our freedom. And also with them being benches, they will be used by the community and it will stand as a lasting memorial. It wouldn't be a one-off expense. We would use it also as a precursor to actually working with young people in schools to explain to them the Battle of Gallipoli. We've got lots of information which I've used in the past. Teachers could actually get all that information as well and use it in schools, because I think it comes under, let's see. It does come under stage key 3 and 4, I think. Key stage 3 and 4. Also, what we want to do is if we do get them put in, we will also arrange for there to be unveiling ceremonies at a suitable time. Invite yourselves, councillors, and also young people who can come along, and the local schools that will be involved and the local clerics from the area. and that we can actually involve the Mayor, the Lord Lieutenant of Greater Manchester, ourselves, the Fusiliers Association, relevant council officers, any living relatives that can be found, young people from local schools and the wider veterans community and members of the public as well. I'm willing to take any questions if anyone's got any.
Michael?
Yes, Chair. So I'm just trying to find the first, who was first.
I think
I
it
don't know
was
if you want the
Blundell.
portfolio holder to go first.
Sorry, is it me?
Yeah, that is you.
Yeah. Well, I'm not declaring an interest. I'm the portfolio holder for the armed forces. But one of the things that we're trying to do within the armed forces, generically, not just the Gallipoli Association, the Fusiliers Association, we're trying to get young people to connect. And what connects young people better than an experience of a young person previously? I mean, the whole thing about sending young people to a war is horrific, and I think we acknowledge that. And you're right, John, it is in Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. We've got 2 perfectly good high schools, and we will have a 3rd high school where young people can connect. And you've also got primary schools within easy walking distance of these sites that are proposed. So younger people that got involved in, for example, the Poppy Pebbles that we did, from the schools that are local to us, both in Milnrow and Littleborough, will be able to connect with what's going on here. So I would like to propose it.
Thank you.
So, Chair, we have comments from Councillor Davidson and Councillor Blundell.
Yes, Councillor Davidson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, John, for that. Much appreciated. As you well know, Ralph is very involved in something like this in his book. And as soon as we got the message, and I have to apologise for questioning you over the phone on this this project, but I just needed to get the facts correct so I could explain them to Ralph. And not only that, but explain it to our my 2 schools that I'm a governor on. And every year those 2 schools do something or investigate something from Ralph's book. And this year we're asking the schools to investigate this young man. So this is perfect for the schools, perfect for our village. So I'll fully support you, and I hope we can get a second one on this site because we need 2 benches.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Michael, who's next?
So Councillor Blundell's had to give apologies to leave for another meeting.
Yeah, I know. But he fully supports this. Yeah.
I've no other comments, Chair.
Okay.
Remember.
Can I just say one more thing, Chair?
Second it.
Can I just say to councillors, I will be working with you. Also, will be the branch, and we can give you a pack of information so that if young people ask you about this project, you've got that information which you can hand out to them. Thank you.
Chair, can I just clarify that if members support this, you would need to allocate £685 from revenue funds as well as the whole of your capital balance.
Yeah, move that.
Supported.
I'm second there.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy with that, yeah.
We'll take that as approved, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good luck,
John. You've been here a while.
Thank you for coming down, Ryan. Thank you very much, Ryan. And good
Thank
luck.
you, Chair. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for that.
Can I now take the opportunity to summarise the position on revenue balance?
Okay.
There is a balance now in the revenue funding of £25,932. Finance have advised that council approved policy places township revenue funds within non-automatic carry forward. As such, any unspent or uncommitted funds are unlikely to be available for the next financial year. We've received a request from Environmental Management to consider funding for township dedicated environmental crime CCTV cameras. These could then be deployed in any of the wards of the township at relatively short notice. Townships are offered the opportunity to directly fund their own deployable CCTV systems for location in fly tipping hotspots. The proposal is for township committees to fund the purchase costs of these modern units for sole use by the Environmental Management Enforcement Team. The Enforcement Manager will work with members at a committee and subcommittee level to prioritise areas for deployment. These cameras are provided by a Rochdale-based company, and EM already have one that's being deployed at hotspot locations across the borough. The cost of the cameras is a maximum of £7,600 per unit. Would members consider allocating all of the remaining Pennines Township revenue funds to the purchase of a number of units, with delegation to the Chair and Vice Chair to approve the specifics of the proposal?
Chair, can I ask a question on this one, please?
Yes, of course you can.
We've been asking for this now for as long as I can remember. If we don't take advantage of this now, then there's something seriously wrong, because we all know, we can all say in our wards that we're getting constant phone calls. Even the leader is in touch every day, mentions fly tipping 2 or 3 times a week. I think this is a fantastic idea, I really do. And if it's working out at council level, at committee level, and with our township office, I think this would be a fantastic scheme for us. I really do.
Councillor Blundell?
No, he's gone.
He's gone. Councillor Emsley?
Just to say that whilst I understand committing all the funds to that, I did have something that I was going to put in. That's a small scheme in Smithy Bridge that would cost about £4,000. So whilst I understand trying to commit all the funds to it would seem appropriate, does that mean that I might as well not bother to try and work up this scheme that it's been ongoing for about 3 years?
Janet, it's really needed, right? We really need this, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
how
I'm just asking why we have to do all the funds. And anyway, yeah.
I can respond to that, Councillor Emsley. We have been given a deadline of Friday of this week to put forward justification for carrying forward of funds. The only justification that we can put forward is that all of the funds have been committed. There is nothing to stop members at a later date deciding that you might only want 2 cameras or 3 cameras and changing the use of some of that funding. But what it will do is we will be able to say that all of Pennines revenue has been committed.
That's great.
I could also suggest, if you wish, to reduce that amount by £2,000 to ensure there's money there for the resident survey that was discussed earlier. Or that could come into the next financial year if you wish. I just don't want members to be losing funds at this stage.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Val. Fully support it. We absolutely have to make the best use of this money we can do. And I wouldn't want anything different than that. I'm just wondering, so we put all our money into the cameras. Are the other townships doing the same? Will it then be a pot of cameras to go anywhere across the borough, or will these be dedicated to Pennines?
Given the time of year, Haywood has no money left, but has been asked to consider it, so they'll have to look at it next year. Rochdale South only have about 4,000 something available, but we've asked them to commit it to that with a view to topping it up in the next year. Rochdale North committed the balance of their funds for 2 cameras, and Middleton meet tomorrow night. Any cameras funded by Pennines Township Committee will be purely for use in Pennines Township, and decisions made on their allocation by Pennines Township.
I think that's
thanks, Val.
Councillor
Westwood, right? Sorry.
It's all right. So can I make a suggestion that rather than, I don't think any of us should worry about exactly how many cameras we necessarily have to do tonight. What we're talking about is committing the money to make sure it doesn't disappear. And can I suggest that we have a paper or an update or a briefing note or something at a future Pennines meeting, Pennines Township meeting, which says how many cameras do we actually need. Then we can discuss it without any time pressures and with the full knowledge of what's going on. Make a decision about how many we're going to buy, because I think it does sound like we're going to buy some. And then the rest of that money can be reallocated back to townships or whatever the projects we're looking at.
Chair, we'd be happy to work with environmental management to look at how many would be affordable within that budget, circulate a paper for comments, and then ask for a delegated decision from Chair and Vice.
I think that's absolutely fine.
Fully support it.
I'll support it, Chair. Can we move it?
Yeah, I agree.
Chair, can I just ask whether you want to move the whole lot or whether you'd want to keep £2,000 back for the resident survey?
Right, move the whole lot, right? Like you said, we can then later sit down, discuss it, and if we need only 2 cameras or 3 cameras, right, deduct and whatever's left, right, we can use it on the schemes that need it.
Thank you very much. That concludes the Township Funds report.
Can I thank everybody, and I'm sorry for the people that are late for another meeting at 7:30. Hopefully we'll see you, right? And can this be minuted, right? I can't wait for COVID to be over and have face-to-face meetings, right?
Chair, apologies.
I'll second that one.
Chair, there's another item. Apologies.
Yeah, Chair, you're not done yet.
Oh, I'll take it all back and I'll repeat it again, right? After we finish. Thank you.
Chair, yeah. For you, Chair, we've got the Dale Street Milmo traffic regulation order for Chris to introduce.
Right.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, very briefly, there is a report that requests approval for highways to start an experimental traffic regulation order for active travel or proposed active travel fund scheme in Milnrow Centre. That there are no details yet of the scheme, nothing's public, but a strange nuance in the council scheme of delegation means we have to ask for committee approval to start an experimental TRO. If we were to miss tonight's meeting, it's very likely we wouldn't get an approval for an experimental TRO in the timescales for the funding, which would potentially mean the funding would just be clawed back by the Department for Transport. So I was looking for approval of the report tonight with a view to coming to ward members, township, and indeed cabinet. It's likely, given the amount of grant funding, where all the details of the scheme would be laid out after a public consultation, etc. Happy to take any questions.
I do. Or Irene, do you have a question on this one? I know we talked about this earlier. You're on mute, Irene.
Sorry, I'll let you go first.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Irene. I'm a bit disappointed, Chris, but I need to kind of get to the bottom of this. All the way through the discussions that we've had so far, I and we, as far as I'm aware, have not been in approval of a one-way system. I've been, in fact, a bit against it, and also given what you said earlier in the evening about that the likelihood of a one-way system increasing traffic speed, it seems a bit strange. So can I just check that the TRO is going in with lots of options, one of which is a one-way, or are we voting on the fact that this is going to go as a TRO one-way either way?
Yeah, no details are set. The report was drafted just to provide some basic idea, but realistically, we just need the minute just has to read approval for a experimental traffic regulation order. All details of the scheme have not been decided and will be subject to a public engagement process, member engagement process, all the usual things. However, I think if we don't catch it now, we won't get another opportunity to get an approval for an experimental order.
Well, I'll ask a follow-up to that. If I vote for this tonight, are we going to get a one-way system temporarily?
I'm not saying definitely yes or definitely that is all to be discussed and decided with elected members. We could do, we've got all the details to go through. So in approving this, you're not necessarily nailing a one-way system you're just providing us with the authority that when it is decided, because the ETRO can cover lots of elements of it. It'll be very wide ranging, and it'll have in itself, it has a 6-month public consultation process that's ongoing through the scheme. So and ETROs can be changed at any point during the experiment as well. So yeah.
Okay.
Very high level.
Can I step in? It's fine. It's fine saying, sorry, Chair, through you. It's fine saying that, well, it could be and it could not. The problem being is Manchester Evening News put a piece in their paper and all hell broke loose because Manchester Evening News said that we were going to put cycle lanes through Milnrow. Other councillors got involved. The leader got involved, which is fair comment, he's a leader of council, and people contacted him, all because the way it was reported. Now, if this is a public meeting and this is a public document, somebody's going to read this document and go, oh, they've made their minds up. The officers have made their minds up. We're going to have a one-way system. So if it's not for a one-way system, it is to move things forward, which I fully understand it is, then the wording in the report should be different to what it is now, one-way, looking at a one-way system.
Fair enough. I take that on board. I think, yeah, the report was written to just provide an approval for us to proceed when we are ready. I'm aware that we need to go through a full public engagement, and that ETRO could be all different things. I appreciate timing is difficult. Equally, timing from the government is very difficult. As such, if we don't move this forward quickly, then
no, I agree with you, Chris.
The money is likely to be clawed back.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just, as I say, it's the wording. Sorry, Chair.
No, fair point. Fair point.
Sorry, Chair. If I can come back on this.
Please go ahead.
For fellow councillors who are not Milnrow and Newegg councillors, we've done quite a bit of work on this, and we're looking at a whole range of measures to improve the public realm in Milnrow, which included all things like planters, seating, speed regulations, cycle storage, Sheffield stands, anything to drop the speed of traffic and make it safer for people to walk and cycle. So it seems really unfair that it's come back in this simple way. I fully understand you've got to do it, Chris, but as this is of public record and it's going out live and it's being recorded, I'm noting I will support it, but there's no way I'm supporting that one-way system as part of that process, because I've looked at every single option for making traffic flow in and out of Milnrow Village, and I cannot see how it can be done with a one-way system safely that isn't going to cause a knock-on effect somewhere else in the village. So I'm happy to support it to get the ball rolling, because it's a lot of money that will improve the public realm. But going forward from here, I'm not going to support the one-way system.
That's fine from my point of view. If it does get supported, I think I just need the minute to say that we're approved to progress an experimental traffic regulation order and nothing more.
That'll do me.
The content of that traffic regulation order can be entirely decided as we move forward through the project.
I'd support that.
We're going to move this.
Michael.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. You there? If I may, I take the point at 2.2 that it is quite specific, Chris. You can change the word in a recommendation and move an alternative wording to that recommendation. I think what we're getting from Chris is that you can take that specific detail out, and that members can just move that an experimental traffic regulation order be approved using the government's active travel fund allocation, and you can keep it as generic as that. And if that's as generic as you need, Chris, then we can wipe the rest out and go with that.
Yep, that's fine with me.
So do you need somebody to approve that then through you, Chair? Do you need somebody to propose that? Sorry, through you, Chair.
It does need proposing and seconding. Yes.
Yeah,
so opposed.
Yeah. And
I think
seconded.
Milnrow councillors should propose and second it, Chair.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
moved it.
that's on
Andy's-
Andy and Irene's system, Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine.
Thank you for listening to us.
Sorry, Chair, you're on mute. Thank you.
Right. Yes, I said, right, that's fine, right? So is it who proposed and who seconded it? I'm sorry I missed that.
I proposed, Andy seconded.
Okay. Show of hands, please.
That's approved, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank
Owen.
you, Chris. And
Thank
thank
you.
you, everybody who participated.
Thank you, Val.
Thanks very much.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.
Thank you,
See you
Chair.
later.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care,
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks to the officers as well, right? Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Chair. Well done.
Thank you, Chair.